What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr Wargames, and today I'm going to bring you a test and combo video for the Infernoble Knight profile I showed you all the other day. You seem to enjoy that profile so much and you got the video way above 50 likes in the first 24 hours, so I thought it was only right that I bring you a test and combo video so you can learn the basics of the deck and kind of see what it can do. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. After a very decent shuffle and a good old cut, we'll do 2 test stands going first, 2 going second, starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, apart from the Aqua Dolphin, that's kind of okay. We've actually got the ability of Heritage, and Heritage is pretty much going to be able to get us any Noble Knight monster or a Noble Arms from the deck. The Almace isn't the greatest to be opening up, but it's just one of them cards that it gives you the ability to equip with it a different one. So I'm going to show you how this can technically lead to full combo within reason. So we're going to activate Heritage. Off of Heritage, you can add a Noble Knight monster. Now, this combo isn't going to be nib-proof because you won't be able to get to the protection early enough, but it's still a combo to show you that technically 2 cards will be able to get you to your most powerful end board, or one of your most powerful end boards. So off the back of Heritage, obviously you get to add a Noble Arms or a Noble Knight. Now you ideally want to be going for Museum just because it's going to give you that little bit more, but because we need the Noble Knight rather than the additional arms off of Museum, we are going to be going for, wherever it may be, Yugioh. Now Yugioh in my opinion is the best normal summon. I'm highly tempted to put this at 3 and put Oliver back down to 1, but I wanted to show you the test hand and plays with the exact same. Now, if you're really worried about a hand trap, you could technically normal summon the Aqua Dolphin, because you would still actually then with this hand, still have the ability to special summon down the Oliver. But because of the Dolphin being a level 3, you're not going to be able to push as far as you might want to. So we're going to normal summon the Yugioh. Yugioh effect can then Foolish Burial. Now, obviously, what you're going to want to send here is I'm still going to send the Gearfried because it will still give me that ability that as long as I can add it back to the hand at one point or another to pretty much be able to give you that Omni in the game. Now, with the rest of this hand as well, keeping in mind that Oliver is just going to be a free extender as a level 1 tuner. So even without activating the Almace, I can still get into Angelica, which is really kind of cool. The issue is you need to send a Fire Warrior, so you're still going to need to get to one or another. You could send Yugioh just to get your level 1 tuner on board, but that's not going to get you anywhere. So you want to activate the Almace. Now what makes Almace so good is while it's equipped on one, so you can equip an Infernoble Arms equip spell from the deck, except itself to one appropriate monster. So you're going to want to get rid of the Almace, you're going to go straight for your Duradol. Your Duradol is then going to allow you to complete your combo. So you're going to send the Duradol, and this is going to allow you to get directly into your Renard. You're then going to special summon down Renard. Renard's effect is then going to go off, and this is going to allow you to add back the Gearfried. Now, obviously, keeping in mind that at this point we don't have an equipped spell, so this is where we're currently on summon number 2. We're going to be pushing into 3, possibly a little bit higher than that. So let's see where we go. We might even be able to nib-proof it. Let's see where we go. So we're going to sync into Angelica. Angelica's effect is going to trigger here. This is going to allow you to search out Museum. Like, this card's just crazy good. Like, the pair of these, whoa, so good. We're then going to activate the Museum. You're going to use Museum's effect to pay 1,200 life points to add you a Noble Arms. So we've already gone through Duradol, we've already gone through Almace, so you kind of want to go for a Noble Arms that is going to give you some form of advantage a little bit later on down the line. So the best thing you can probably go for is going to be your Joyous. And I believe actually we can nib protect this from this point on. So we're actually in an okay position, to be honest. So we're going to special summon down Gearfried. So this is currently our 4th summon. And we're going to banish Duradol. And we're going to equip it with Joyous. So make sure you're equipped the Gearfried with Joyous, because then it means that will always stay on the field. You can then use the ability of Yugioh to equip itself to Angelica. You could trigger Angelica's effect if you wanted to dodge out, but you still want to be able to kind of either go into Isolde or extend that little bit further. Use Museum's second effect to summon itself to the board. And then you're going to want to link these 2 into Isolde. Now, the only thing that will stop Isolde at this particular point of combo is an Imperm, which would suck. So if you are facing against this, this is definitely one of those weak spots. Definitely do not waste it on an Angelica. If you did choose to tag out the Angelica there, you would be able to get Turpine to the graveyard, but then you could bring back the Turpine, but you kind of want to save that a little bit later on, depending on where we go from here. So obviously off the back of Isolde, you're going to add a card you're not going to use for the rest of the turn. So I'm going to add a Renard because I can use that as a follow-up during the next turn. Then use the effect of Isolde to send the Divine Phoenix Sword and summon out your Ricard. Your Rai card is then going to be able to revive at level 4 or lower, and this is how you're going to get into your second Angelica, which is absolutely insane. It's a shame that Angelica is like a hard once per turn, but it's still very, very good. So we're going to bring back the Yugioh. We're then going to sync into the second Angelica. There we go. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to banish 2 warriors from the graveyard to re-loop that equip spell, just so you can start triggering off Angelica. So you can get rid of your first Angelica, you can get rid of a Renard if you want to, entirely up to you. The one you kind of want to try and leave to the end is Yugioh. Sometimes you'll have enough warriors in the graveyard to deal without it, sometimes you won't. But you're going to add back your Phoenix Blade. You're then going to activate your Phoenix Blade, targeting the Angelica. You're going to trigger Angelica's effect to banish itself into the end phase, send in the sword, and in doing so, you're going to Foolish Burial your Turpine. Wherever he may be. There you go. You're going to Foolish Burial the Turpine. And then you're going to resolve that by special summoning out your Captain Roland. Because you control monsters within a quick card, you can bring back the Turpine, and then you can just go, cool, sync those together, and there is your Charles. You can then use the quick effect of Roland. Now keep in mind you've already used Yugioh's effect this turn, so you can't re-equip it, I believe. But you will be able to do Roland and keep Roland in the graveyard because that will give you the quick effect, pop disruption during your opponent's turn. The only thing you're going to lose here, because you don't have a second museum, is getting Charles from the spell and trap zone to the monster zone, but you're still going to end on a pretty decent board. So you're going to be able to link these together and go into the one Emperor Charles, and this is going to allow you to equip the Charles from the graveyard to it. Now it's entirely up to you. You could technically special summon down the Oliver. You are locked into warriors for the rest of this turn, so keeping in mind there isn't really any great warrior link freeze, but you could start to kind of climb a little bit higher if you wanted to. You could summon down the Oliver. If you did have a second museum as well, that's where you can bring Charles to the board and either go to a second Emperor Charles the Great, or you can go into a Baron. Probably a bit better off of the Baron, but you're still kind of good here. You've still got 4 cards in your hand. You could still Oliver if you want to. You still have the ability to get an equip card back if you want to loop the Phoenix Blade, but ultimately at the base minimum, what you can do is you can just move to the end phase, and in the end phase you'll get the ability of Emperor Charles' effect, which will let you equip the Almace, and then this will allow you to equip one from the deck. Now, if you want your Charles to basically be indestructible, good English there, you can go for an Yugioh. If you want it to be non-targeted, you can go for the second Oliver. Entirely up to you on that one there. And then basically, you need to make sure you leave one space free because that's where your Captain Roland's going to come back. So you're going to pass your opponent's turn. Your Angelica is going to come back as well. So you've got the ability to Foolish Burial off the back of Angelica should you need it. But ultimately what you've got here is you've got a Spell and Trap negate off of Emperor Charles. You've got a Monster negate off of the Gearfried. And then if your opponent puts a monster on the board that's threatening, you can activate the Roland to come back equipped to the Charles. That will then allow you to use its effect as if it was Emperor Charles to pop a card. Now keep in mind as well, the card that this is equipped itself to, which is this Charles here, gives it 500. The Field Spell also gives this 500. So this is currently sitting on 4,000 attack at the base minimum. And then not to mention as well, an additional 500 for Roland. So this is a 4,500 boss monster. You've got 3k here with the negate. This can't be destroyed by card effect. The only issue is you kind of want to have Yugioh and Oliver, just because then it's like, okay, cool, this card is not targeted and can't destroy it. So it's like a major pain in the backside to deal with. Very simple, what it needs to do is go, okay, cool, Imper. And you just go, okay, all I've got is the effects from down here. So that's very, very tricky. But this just kind of shows you what you can get. And off of that, we just had like 2 search cards. So, and we was able to, we won't be able to like draw protect it, but we were able to nib protect it, which is kind of cool. So, really, really do enjoy this deck. I think this deck's really, really fun. There we go, put those back the right way. I'm still kind of like testing around with the new stuff as well, so there might be a couple of bits that I don't do in the most direct routes, but it's still kind of cool to see the variations. Like everyone plays decks differently, so it's just about seeing what you can do with the hand you're dealt and how far you can go. Obviously, in the in real life kind of actual duels is when you're going to get the max test, and that's why it's always worth testing with friends or anything else before you go to a local event. Or if the local event is like very casual, then again you can test and you can play the deck however you see fit, and you'll learn a lot from that. So now what we do is we're going to go first again, starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, bro, you're a one of, you're a one of, you're a one of. Why am I seeing you all? Not that it's the end of the world. Well, slightly is a bit of the end of the world. Actually, no, Almace is probably pretty good in this hand now. So we normal summon Connector. Connector's effect will trigger. Now, obviously, if they do stop Connector, you're like, ah, That's a bit annoying. But what that will allow you to do is it will allow you to use Almace to equip to connector, tag out the Almace, go for a Duradol, and then you can get rid of the Duradol to go for a free fire extender. So something like, let me just double check. I think is it a warrior or a fire warrior on Fire Lady? Yeah, so you can go for Fire Flint Lady. Fire Flint can then tag out, bring down the Renard, and then straight away you got your Synchro level 5. So you've got a way to play around it if connector does get stopped. So what we'll do here is we'll use connector. We'll go into Dolphin. We'll use Dolphin's effect. I would probably get rid of Gateway of Chaos. Like, this is of no use to you right now. Like, it just means your set rotation in the deck's dead. But this is the risk and reward of playing this card. Like, if this was set rotation, broken. So we get rid of that. You could get rid of the Divine Sword, but it's quite nice to hold back some of the equips because you might need them a little bit on down the line. So the issue is you don't control a Fire Warrior right now, but that's where Almace can come in to help you with that. It's entirely up to you if you feel you want to go for your Synchro first or if you want to go into a Zold. The only issue is you don't get the Foolish Burial of your Gearfried. So you're playing it around it a little bit differently. So let's go with Almace, and we'll tag out the Almace to go for a Duradol. Now we've looked at our opponent's hand, we know what we're facing. Like, if we're worried about a nib, you'll play it a little bit differently. If you're not worried about a nib, you're no longer going to need to worry about a Droll. You can get rid of an Ash. You'll know if they've got an Imperm, so you just adapt it as you see fit. You get to then tag this off, add a level 5 or lower Fire Warrior. Now you could very easily go for Oliver if you want to. I'm not. I'm going to go directly for Fire Flint. So Fire Flint doesn't even need to tag herself out, which is the great thing about it. So she can just special summon herself down, and then because I control a Fire Warrior, I can special summon down Renard. Now Renard can then let me add one of these back. I'm going to probably add back probably Almace. I mean, I could add back Duradol. It doesn't make much of a difference. The only issue is, like, if you had the Gearfried, if you were able to get the Gearfried to the grave, you'd be in, like, Dreamland. So what you can do now is you can sync these two together. You can go into Angelica. Angelica's effect will then give you direct access to the field spell of Museum. And again, this is the only real major difference, or the issue is that we don't have the monsters in the graveyard to bring back, really. But you're still able to kind of push your plays a little bit further forward. So we'll go into the Noble Museum. We'll activate the museum. This will then allow us to add a Noble Arms. Now, the only Noble Arms we haven't used this turn is Joyous, wherever it may be. There we go, got Joyous. We now have the ability, of course, if we wanted to, we could equip to Angelica and then tag out, and that will give us our level 4, which might be quite useful because, like, bringing back the Turpine could be relatively important for this one. I'm just going to check, Rickard. I believe it just adds back wherever you may be. It has to be Fire Warrior. I mean, that's not bad, but, like, can you imagine if it was you could bring back any level 4 warrior? Broken. So now you just got to kind of really figure this out. Now, I mean, we've got a 9. We just need a tuner on the board, but then we'd have a 9. Joyous or Almace isn't going to help us too much here. I'm just trying to think if I want to trigger Angelica's effect first before I go into a Zold. Actually, that could Ogier could be really good. Actually, maybe. Okay, we'll play it this way, and then if I need to change it up, I'll change it up. But go into a Zold. Zold's effect to add the one card you're not going to use this turn, and personally, I'm not going to be using. Well, I'm definitely not going to use another connector, but I'm going to add a Renard because then I've got a follow up for the next turn. We will then send one. Now, this is where you play so many different equips. So we will send Living Fossil. And this will then allow us to summon out. I could send more, actually. Where... Ah, yeah, there you go. That's my misplaced. So we don't use his old effect to send yet. So let's keep this. There we go. I knew what I was trying to do. I've just done it in the wrong order. A quick Divine Sword to Angelica. Angelica's effect tag out. Here we go. Foolish Burial Ogier. There we go. Send the Ogier. Then use Isolde. Isolde will send Living Fossil. Isolde will then summon Rykard. Rykard's effect will then trigger to bring back the Ogier. Ogier's effect can then Foolish. So let's send... I mean, you kind of want a card you can bring back from the grave, but send the Turpin. We can then equip Joyous. onto any of these, and then because you control a monster that was with an equipped, you can bring back the Turpin, and then you can sync, boom, boom, boom. Got all of those into Charles. Oh, I forgot to help you if you brought back Roland. Maybe we don't need to go that hard then, so we can just leave it as boom, boom, and boom, so like this. Okay, so we've got Charles will be this one, and Turpin. Turpin will of course get banished. Don't need to use Roland's effect if I don't want to. I kind of want to get this to the grave as well. I could make a second Angelica, but we've already used both of its effects, so it doesn't really do anything. We still have the second effect in Museum, which is really important when we make the second Charles. So let's go with Roland equipped to the Charles, and then we can link these into your Charles here. This will then allow you to equip it with Charles. You can then use Museum to bring this back out. And then what you can do here is you can sync these two together. This will then let you get into a Baron. You're locked into Warriors, but you're still in a very good position. So, so we've used Roland. We haven't used Ogier, so I need to get Ogier to the grave, which is absolutely fine. Got Angelica coming back. So maybe what I should have done is instead of using Turpine, I should have used Ogier. So we leave Turpine here on the board, which would technically be here, which means that this would be there. And then what you do here is you can Ogier equip to the Charles. Good position on that one. I mean, I could have very easily made a second Emperor Charles if I wanted to, rather than the Baron, but I thought Baron would be better because it's like an upgrade to an Omni Negate. And then what you can do here is you can move to the end phase. You would then treat this as if it is Charles, and this will then allow you to add an equip spell back, so we'll re-equip to a Duradol. You could add the sword back from the grave if you wanted to as well, and then we'll equip from the deck, and you'll equip to with Oliver. So now this can't be targeted, can't be destroyed. It's got the ability to send Duradol to negate a spell or trap. You've got Baron being an Omni Negate. You've got Angelica coming back as well. And then you've still got a follow-up in Renard, and you've got a follow-up in Almace for the next turn. Not to mention, if these survive, Museum effect, and you go to rock and roll. So it's a bit of a long-winded way, but that was a bit of a weird play out for myself. Like I said, there's still a couple of little tips and tricks that I'm learning myself as well. But it's just kind of getting your head around all of it. That's what's so great about synchro decks, but also quite taxing, is you've got to try and remember routes and plays and everything else you need. So now we'll start going second. We'll now start breaking boards. So we're going to shuffle this up. We're going to cut this up. And then we're going to go with our random test hand of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Really? Okay, now obviously this is going to be a very more a much more difficult hand to break boards with. It's not the greatest to break. You've got a Monster Reborn. Gateway does nothing for you. It should really stay in the deck. It stays in the deck, golden dream. But going second, what you do get the benefit of is you can actually Duradol to one of your opponent's monsters, which is a lot of people forget this, is it just lets you equip it to any monster on the field, which is really nice. So then you get to send it, and you get to add. Now, we can add a Noble Arms, which is absolutely fine. So we're going to want to go directly for... oh, actually, yeah, good point. Do we want Ogier? Ogier gives us the Foolish, which is nice. Yeah, I suppose Ogier is probably the best one. For now, anyway. Activate Museum. Pay 1,200 on this one to add a Noble Arms. So let's go for... You've already gone through Duradol. Joyous. No, let's go for an Almace. There you go, Almace. Cool. We can then normal summon Yugioh. Ogier's effect will Foolish Burial. Now, keeping in mind that while you've got a monster equipped with an equip spell, you can special summon Turpin for pretty much free. Banish it when loses field, when it's called loses field, banish your monster loses faster, and its effect's negated. So, Monster Reborn's not going to get me too much. Just trying to think what I want to send. Do I want to send Renard, which wouldn't be a tuner. Rykard I can deal with later. Send the Gearfried, I suppose, is the best one. Because you don't really want to just send like a non-tuner. You kind of need that tuner to get your synchro plays going, which is really important. You could have also very easily gone into a Super Quant red layer instead of the Ogier, and then you special summon out the red. Which the benefit would be you'd maintain your normal summon, but Trying to think if there's a direct way to access Renard without negating its effects, and I don't think there is. Fortunately, without access to a tuner, I mean, I will get a tuner, that's not an issue, because I can special summon from the spell and trap zone, so. Let's equip Almace to Ogier. We'll special summon down Turpin, and we are going to have to go Isolde. So this isn't like the strongest player, this is probably the weakest one, to be honest. But sometimes you just gotta play with the hands you're dealt. So we'll go into Isolde on this one. Isolde's effect will add a card that we're not going to use, so we'll add Connector. We will then use Isolde's effect to send, and this will send Sword. Whatever it may be. Send Sword. Summon out Rykard. Rykard's effect will revive. It can either revive Turpin or it can revive Ogier. Doesn't make much of a difference which one. There we go. Then you're going to sync these two together. You're going to go into Angelica. Angelica's effect is going to trigger and it will search you out a field spell. There we go. Now you want to make sure you summon the monster from the spell and trap zone before you replace the Noble Arms or the Museum. Otherwise you're just losing advantage. So use Ogier's effect in the graveyard. Equipped it with your Angelica. Don't use Angelica's effect, you want to keep it on the board for now. Use Museum to summon out the Ogier. And now what you want to do is you want to activate a second Museum. Museum will then search you out another equipped. So we're going to go for the last one we haven't used yet, which is Joyous. Activate Joyous, equipped it to Angelica. Trigger Angelica's effect to banish yourself, Foolish, and get Roland. So we'll get Roland. And our Foolish will be Oliver. There we go. And then sync your Roland into Charles. You've now got the ability, should you wish to quick effect Captain Roland, bring this back, use Charles to pop. But personally, I would probably hold that back. So I still have Oliver's effect, and I still have the second summon off of the back of Museum. So we're going to bring back Oliver so that this can't be targeted. We'll trigger the effect to pop a card. We will then link these into your Great Emperor or your Emperor Charles. Then use the effect to this. You will then bring back your Emperor Charles. Then you can use your Museum to summon the Emperor Charles. You've used Oliver, you've used Ogier, you've still got equips in the hand and grave. You can then bring back the sword by banishing 2 warriors. So we'll get rid of Rykard and your Gearfried because you can add them back a little bit later on. Add back the sword. You could equip the sword to Charles if you want to. All you're really going to be doing something like that is you're going to link those off and you'll get into your second Great Emperor. So now you've got 2 spell and trap negates. And what this is going to allow you to do is, again, this Charles will then equip this from the graveyard. So you've gone through all of your equips, like you've Roland, you've Olivered, and you haven't Roland. You've Olivered and Ogiered. So then you've got the ability to bring back this Captain Roland, and the reason you do that is it gives Charles an additional 500. So Charles is now 4,500 there with 3k there, plus you've got the Isolde of 16. You then have the ability, if you really, really wanted to, is you could have done it a little bit differently, and you could have left Rykard in the grave. So that when you brought back Charles, rather than going for a second Emperor, you could go for a Baron. So I'll rewind that so you can see that position as well. So let's put all these back a little bit. So you can see Roland will go back to the graveyard. This will go back to the extra deck. This would be equipped off of your Emperor Charles. You'd then use the Museum to bring this out. You would then activate your Living Fossil. Your Living Fossil would then bring back your Rykard. You'd then Rykard and Emperor Charles sinking into Baron. Then what you can do here is you can still use your Roland to equip to your Charles. Charles is now going to be 4,000. Because it doesn't have this, it loses 500 attack. But it's absolutely fine, because then what you do is you get Baron to pop a card, and then you've got Charles to pop a card as well. Plus, you'll also maintain the sword in the grave. So you can then banish 2, wherever sword may be. There we go. Banish 2 warriors. So let's get rid of, we can now get rid of Rykard and Gearfried. Add back the sword. And then you can equip it to either of these and they'll just get buffed by another 300, which is kind of cool. So then your board is still Charles with a spell and trap negate, a 500 less attack, but you'd also gain a Baron, which is now your Omni Negate and a target and pop. You still have Isolde, and then even if this doesn't all go through, you'll move to the end phase. Angelica will come back. The only downside is then in the end phase, you'll be able to use Charles' effect to equip from the graveyard, so we'll equip it with Almace. And then you can equip one from the deck. So then Charles either becomes untargetable or undestructible. You still got the Omni Negate, you still got your Spell and Trap Negate. And then if this gets targeted, you can then tag it out again, Foolish Burial, and summon out either a Roland from the extra or the main deck. So you've got to kind of plays around with it. But this is kind of like a nice aggressive one. It just took us... Like, I would be... Unless your opponent's bricked, I would be surprised if you can build that board through a standard end board. That's the only issue with doing test stands like this, is I can only show you what the deck can do with a 6th card, and taking into account what your opponent may or may not have, and building from there. So we'll now do our final test stand going second. So after another decent shovel and a good old cut, our final test stand of 6 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Please don't have Droll. Okay, so a good pretty much hand. I mean, Ash probably would have been used previously, in my opinion, because I don't see why you would hold it, unless your opponent is playing like Labyrinths, which is, you know, they're going to summon during your turn, and then maybe you will. So we'll activate Terraforming. We will search out the field. So we've got pretty much full combo, like Rotor and Terraforming is full combo. Activate Rotor. Rotor just means we get an extra search later on down the line. We can very easily go for Oliver if you want to, but I'm going to go for Renard. Activate your Noble Arms Museum. Use Museum's effect. This is going to give you your Gyarados. And I'm just going to give myself a bit more advantage on the board state. So we'll activate Gyarados, equipping it to one of our opponent's monsters. We'll sack that off, and we'll go for, wherever it may be, now that we've opened up these particular hands, we'll go straight for your Super Quant Red Layer. Special the Red Layer down because, you know, free summon, why not? You can then normal summon the Ogier. Ogier's effect can then Foolish, and it will Foolish the Gearfried. You can then special Renard, making it a tuner, adding back the Gearfried, and then just to protect everything you're going to do going forward, you're going to activate the Gearfried by banishing Gyarados, and then you're going to specifically equip Gearfried with your Joyous. So now you're protected from monster effects, which is really, really important, and it's time for you to start pretty much building up your board as you see fit. So we'll then use Ogier. I like putting these, but I mean, I've probably locked out one of my link zones now. But I'm going to use that later on anyway, so not a big end. And then we're going to go into Angelica. Angelica's effect is going to trigger to give us a second museum, but again, do not activate the second museum until you have used all the effects on the first one. So we're now going to special out, or use Ogier to target Angelica, and then special out the Ogier. Now at this point you've used all the effects in museums, you can activate a second museum, search yourself out another Noble Arms. Now the only Noble Arms we haven't used this turn is going to be our Almace, which is really, really good. And then what you want to do is you're going to use your Red Layer, you're going to overlay and make a rank 5. JK, but you can do it, which is pretty funny. You can actually make the rank 5 Noble Knight if you played it. But you're going to link those two together, you're going to go to Isolde, and the reason I'm going to do that is because I've got the 2 zones free. We can then use Isolde's effect to search. Now you can either add a Renard for follow-up if you need it, or of course you go for anything you want. It doesn't really make much of a difference. We're then going to use the effect, and again off the effect of Isolde we're going to send 1 equipped, so we will send a Living Fossil. Could send Gyarados, very easy to do that as well. We're going to go for, let me just double check. Yeah, okay, cool. We are going to go for a Rykard, wherever it may be. I probably could have used Ogier and left Angelica on the board. I mean, it would have saved me go that little bit further. Like, I can very easily just lift this here, put this here, and then Rykard brings this back. And then I've got a straight Synchro 9 here. I don't even need to use Angelica's effect, but you kind of want to. Or what you can bring back is you can bring back the Renard. It just gives you another level on the board. Not that you desperately need it, because you're going to need a level higher tuner. But yeah, I probably should have. Let's do it this way. So what happens when you have that extra monster on the board? Actually, it's a pretty good monster extra to have actually, because now what I can do. Still got the second museum. Don't need the Ogier, so link all of these together. Going to the Goki the Power Load Ogre. Whoa, that's going to be boss monster. Then sword onto your Angelica. Angelica tag out, Foolish and Summon. Like, how can you give a card this effect that gives you a Foolish, Summon and Dodge, basically? Send Turpin, summon out Roland, Turpin Special, Sync, Turpin Banished. Go into Charles. Keep Roland in the graveyard if you can. I mean, I can very easily activate Almace, but we'll add back the sword. We'll banish Zold, and we'll banish Super Quant. Activate the sword on Charles. Technically, you use Charles' effect to pop a card. We're going to link into Emperor Charles. Emperor Charles is going to equip normal Charles from the graveyard. We'll then use the effect of Museum to summon this Charles. And then it's up to you if you want another spell and trap negate or not. It really depends. Like, if you did, I would probably, like, if you're going full on aggression, like this board, it is full on aggression. Because keep in mind, this gains attack equal to the combined link ratings of all other link monsters you control times 200. So you'd probably want that second link monster, just so you can go, okay, cool. We will banish Renard and Ogier. We'll add back Divine Sword. Equip Divine Sword to this Charles. Link these off. Go into Emperor Charles. This will then, I mean, it only gives you an extra 400. It's not groundbreaking, but you give this Charles here. And then what you do is you can use your Roland, equip to this Charles. So this Charles is currently up by 1500 attack. Your Goki Power Load Ogre is currently on 32. And if you wanted to, you can tribute a Goki Link monster, then target cards on the field up to its link rating. So I could tribute this, target 4 cards, and just go boom, 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 boom. That's completely cleared. And then you move to the battle phase. And this is way beyond game. So you've got 3k there, not equipped by anything, but still a spell and trap negate. You've got the monster negate here at 3k. Well, actually more than 3k, 35, because you get the 500 boost from... sorry, not the 500 boost from the field spell. Yeah, you do. You get the 500 boost from the field spell on all of these. So 35, and then he's up by 15. So 500 for his own effect of equipping Charles, 500 off of Roland, and then 500 off the field spell. So well and truly game. And then obviously Angelica comes back if they survive. And then if Angelica comes back, they've still got to deal with. You'll still be able to make your Charles that is pretty much stacked, untargetable or undestructible, and then you'll be able to have 2 spell and trap negates. So the only thing that beats you would be like a dark ruler evenly, which, you know, it happens. Never say never, but still means that your opponent is an uphill battle to kind of come back from that board. Anyway, that was just like the first kind of introduction to this deck. If you do enjoy this and you find it helpful, then make sure you smash the like button. Again, getting the video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours will show me that you want this type of content, and I'll bring more Infernoble content for you as we go. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. As absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.